So we'll continue our discussion on sand casting process. So we'll discuss in detail what are the various components that are employed in a sand casting process. The first important part is the pattern. So we have discussed about the pattern. Pattern is the replica of the object which needs to be made. So it may be made of wood, wax, plastic, like that, even glass. So that's the pattern. So once the pattern is done, then it will be placed inside the sand, placed on top of sand to make the replica. So once the pattern is placed on sand and rammed, when you remove the pattern, there will be a cavity there. So as you can see here, this particular thing is called as the mold cavity. So mold cavity is the place where molten metal will be poured to get the replica. So the finished product is called as casting. The replica of the object to be made is called as pattern. So the cavity which the pattern makes is called in the sand is called as the mold cavity. So then there is core. So core, as we can see here, there is a core placed here. Suppose you need a hollow object which is not fully solid but hollow somewhere. Imagine you are making a pipe from casting. So pipe has to be hollow. If it is a bar, it is solid. If it is hollow, it is called as pipe. So if you need to make a hollow pipe, then you need to place something inside the mold cavity that does not melt during the pouring of molten metal, and it can easily be removed once the metal is solidified. So sand has such excellent properties. So what we will do is we will make the core using sand with some binders. Sand is made into a solid object and it is placed inside the mold cavity, which is called as core. So once the metal solidifies, core can be easily broken away and you can get a cavity inside the casting. Hollow object can be made. So that's the purpose of core. So then there are other parts, pouring basin, runner, riser, etc. So pouring basin is also called as cup, where the molten metal is poured. So as you can see here, there's a opening here, enlarged opening to enable the pouring of molten metal. And also, as you can see here, there is a container which carries the molten metal. So that is called as ladle. So ladle is a specially designed heat resistance bucket which can be used to transport molten metal from one place to another. It is predominantly made from ceramic, because ceramic has excellent thermal heat resistance properties. So it is made up of ceramic material. And once the molten metal is poured through the pouring basin, it runs through the runner into the mold cavity. And once the how we will know if the metal is filled or not inside the mold cavity. So here comes the purpose of riser. So riser, what it does is, once the metal is completely filled inside the mold cavity, it will rise through this riser. So we can predict that entire mold cavity is filled. So another purpose of this riser is to provide excess metal during solidification. So when liquid is converted into solid, its volume gets reduced because the molecules are binding together. What happens is that its volume shrinks. So we need not, if you suppose we are making a pattern for certain volume, if it solidifies, what happens is that the volume of that pattern, the casting will be smaller than anticipated. So to prevent that, what happens? We are providing excess metal in the riser as well as runner, so that it can be utilized during the solidification process and the entire mold cavity is covered. So we get the exact replica or exact size of the pattern which we designed. So that's the purpose of another purpose of this runner and risers. And there are vent holes here. So vent holes are provided in order to provide gaps for release of air. So once the solidification takes place, gases will be liberated like carbon dioxide, methane, etc. So molten metal may react with sand and binders and liberate some gases. So if the gases are not adequate holes are provided to remove the gases, what happens is that the gas settles on the surface of the molten metal, and if it is solidifying, bubbles will be formed. During solidification, the bubbles will burst and holes will be formed. Such holes are called as blowholes, which are essentially casting defects which are not preferable. So to prevent the formation of blowholes, we are providing air vent. So this is regarding the casting process. So we'll discuss the next topics in the upcoming lectures. I hope you understood the sand casting process. Thank you.